Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be talking to you about my transformational change project, and part of the reason I felt so moved to implement this specific type of change in my place of work. Specifically, I'll be discussing the ideas of fairness and equity in the realm of education. Now, before I begin, I wanted to start off with a quote. It was Britt Hume who said that fairness is not an attitude, it's a professional skill that must be developed and exercised. Now hold on to that idea because those words are going to, continually be echoed throughout my discussion with you here today. So I'll be starting with a story. This story takes place during the fall quarter at Cal Poly Pomona, one of the Cal State system schools. Now this is actually where I did my bachelor's, and the time of the story takes place, I want to say in about around September. I was finishing up my master's degree, and I was also teaching as a teaching associate there at Cal Poly. So I was teaching different writing courses, rhetoric courses, basically English classes. I had the opportunity to work with a variety of students, different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses, different language abilities. But I will never forget this one student in particular. For this story, let's say her name is Jackie. Jackie is the protagonist of my story. She was considered an English language learner. She was actually Generation 1.5, meaning that she was born here in America. However, she spoke primarily Spanish in her home. She may have lived in a linguistic enclave, meaning that she really didn't have the opportunity to speak English, maybe as much as some of her collegiate peers. So one day, Jackie came to my office hours. It was a regular week to week, but I knew that something different was going on in this situation. She, kind of walked in a little slower than usual, her head was down, and she just shared with me that she felt like some of her peers, because they spoke English as their primary language, their first language, she really felt like they were moving ahead, moving much quicker than her in school. She also shared that she felt Cal Poly didn't have the resources to accommodate her. She didn't feel like she was being heard, and because she spoke Spanish as her first language, she felt like there was nowhere that she could turn for academic assistance. I explained to her that I can work with her one-on-one, even during my office hours, in addition to what we covered during the class. And I am happy to report that she did end up getting A's in all three of my classes. I actually worked with her in three subsequent English courses. And she did really well. It did break my heart that Jackie felt like she couldn't turn to anyone. She felt almost embarrassed that she did not speak English here at one of our universities, a CSU no less. That really struck a chord with me. So I just wanted to say that, the idea of fairness and equity and responsibility and ownership as an educational leader, it's not something that we have the luxury of passing on to the next person. We can't really pass on that baton, if you will. We need to hunker down and deal with it. So I challenge you. I challenge you to think about the following question. What if we, as educational leaders, could help students like Jackie by providing more robust academic support that are tailored to all students of all backgrounds? 21st century schools have a range of students that come from different parts of the world, and yes, they speak different languages, but what's the holdup? My transformational change project involves building more robust academic support for multilingual learners. This is going to require a hard look in the mirror. We're going to need to figure out which of our services are actually doing a disservice to our students. Remember that quote I mentioned earlier? Fairness is not an attitude, it's a professional skill that must be developed. The first step to finding a solution is to figure out that there is a problem. It's now the time to roll up our sleeves and do the hard work. Again, we can't pass this off to anyone. If this is how our students are feeling in our four-year universities, this is something that needs to change. So, although I only used one example of Jackie as the protagonist in this story, this is unfortunately the reality of many students across the US. So again, my TCP, my Transformational Change Project, involves creating, implementing, and sustaining multimodal post-secondary tools that ensure that we are reaching out to students across the entire university, not just those that speak English. What we want is true equitable education for all of our students. Isn't that just fair? So, let's get to work.